It's May 3rd in Dakar, 1 p.m. in Abuja. Good afternoon, and many thanks for staying tuned to West Africa Democracy Radio, broadcasting on 94.9 FM and around the world on wadr.org. Welcome to Newslink. Here are the top stories. Senegalese Parliament reconvenes for an extraordinary session following the rejection of a bill seeking the dissolution of two-state institutions. ECOWAS extols the Gambia for its impressive national early warning system.
It was quite reassuring to know that the Gambian government places a lot of premium on conflict prevention, places a lot of premium on early warning.
Renewed concerns in Nigeria as citizens complain about new hikes in fuel prices amid Dangote refinery's promise.
I slept here. I was here since around 3 o'clock yesterday.
Here we are at the filling station with uncertainty of getting fuel because it's expensive and it's also difficult to get.
Elsewhere, Africa gets up to 51 billion in grants from China with promises of a beneficial relationship. Please stay tuned for details of these stories and more.
Here is Augustine Coley with Newslink.
Many thanks for joining us and a warm welcome to our listeners in the Gambia, Ghana, Liberia and Sierra Leone. We begin right here in Senegal as the extraordinary section of Parliament summoned by President Bassirou Diomaye Faye assembled today, Thursday. The members of Parliament were recalled to the House to examine several laws before closing their work with a general policy statement from Prime Minister Ousmane Sonko. Abdoulaye Hassan tells us more.
This summon made official by a decree comes after the head of state took the decision to dismiss the heads of two state institutions he had requested to dissolve. These officials are Aminata Mbeng Njaye, President of the High Council of Territorial Communities, HCCT, and Abdoulaye Dauda Diallo, President of the Economic, Social and Environmental Council, CESE. Thursday's extraordinary session also follows the rejection of a bill presented by President Diomaye Faye aimed at abolishing the CESE and the HCCT by the majority Benobokiaka BBY coalition in the National Assembly on Monday, September 2. The BBY, chaired by former President Macky Sall, has been in power from 2012 to 2024. The agenda for the extraordinary session of September 5 includes the draft settlement law for the 2022 management, the ratification of the African Union Convention on Cross-Border Cooperation, Niamey Convention, a draft law relating to the National Human Rights Commission, CNDH, and the general policy statement by the Prime Minister Ousmane Sonko. Thousands of kilometers away from home, attending the China-Africa Summit, the Senegalese president remains focused on domestic affairs, especially on the bill seeking to dissolve the two institutions his government believes will help reduce government running costs.
That was Oge Oberika on that development instead of Abdoulaye Hassan. Over to Guinea, the opposition has called for a demonstration this Thursday, September 5, marking the third anniversary of the National Committee for Rally and Development's seizure of power. The rally is to call the current regime to order and to respect the transitional charter. They are also demanding adherence to the timetable agreed upon with ECOWAS, the reopening of private media, and the cessation of legal proceedings against social and political actors. On Wednesday, clashes between demonstrators and the police resulted in one fatality in the upper suburbs of Conakry. Etiatisu completes the story sent in by WADR's General Alpha Ibrahim and Balde in Conakry.
The opposition has chosen the route from the Tannery roundabout to the esplanade of the September 28 stadium to protest against the military regime. Suleiman Konate, communication advisor to Selou Dalen, explains the reasons for the demonstration.
La manifestation a pour objectif, n'est-ce pas, de marquer notre solidarité.
The purpose of the demonstration is to show our solidarity with Mr. Fonik in Biloba, who have been arbitrarily detained. Today, we demand an end to the baseless legal actions against political and social actors, and we insist on the conclusion of the transition before December 31st, 2024. Moreover, we firmly oppose any candidacy by General Mamadi Doumbouya in the upcoming presidential election.
Candidature, n'est-ce pas, du général Mamadi Doumbouya à la présidentielle prochaine.
This opposition demonstration has been banned by the municipal authorities and the governor of Conakry. However, the opposition has announced that it will not back down and will proceed with the demonstration on the anniversary of the CNRD seizure of power.
The latest demonstration has called for the opening of dialogue. We have been very constructive. We have always opposed and been categoric. Today, the solitary challenge of the transition is that the support movement can organize its activities without issues, while others face a systematic and absolute ban on the right to demonstrate.
It should be noted that celebrations are planned for September 5 in some communes of Conakry and in the interior of the country, organized by supporters of the military regime. These celebrations have not been banned by the local authorities.
That was Cheno Alpha Ibrahim Ambada's report, voiced by Eche Atisu. In the Gambia, the director of ECOWAS Early Warning Directorate, Dr. Onyenji Ikeji Owonka, has praised the Gambia for its robust early warning system. She expressed reassurance with how the Gambian government had placed a premiere on conflict prevention, among others. She remarked while presenting her findings to the Vice President of the Gambia, Mohamed B. Jallow, following an ECOWAS assessment on the early warning system in the country. Here is an excerpt of her address.
We have been conducting this assessment mission of all the national centers. We've covered some countries, and we're here in Gambia to do the same. We had the privilege of having audience with the Vice President, and it was quite reassuring to know that the Gambian government places a lot of premium on conflict prevention, places a lot of premium on early warning, and this is a determination that we see. We take this message back home that the early warning architecture is prized in the Gambia. We had a very useful, incisive discussion with the Vice President. We did bring to his notice the need to have the bill presented to the Parliament, the bill establishing the National Early Warning Center. And I'm leaving reassured that is almost a done deal. The Vice President informed us that the bill is already at the level of the Parliament, and they would be going through the various series of reading. We're looking forward to having the Act first quarter of next year. So this is the biggest news that we're taking back with us. But beyond the bill and the Act, we are sure that early warning will continue to be the lead when it comes to conflict prevention, the response, the analysis, the data, but again, the coordination of response, which is under the office of the Vice President.
Dr. Onyeji Ikeji Owonka is director of the ECOWAS Early Warning Directorate.
More stories coming up on West Africa Democracy Radio. Newslink continues.
Now, as the highly anticipated Dangote refinery is set to commence operations this September, promising to dispense 25 million liters of fuel per day, citizens in Nigeria have been filled with excitement and hope for relief from the country's long-standing fuel scarcity. The refinery's production is expected to increase to 30 million liters in October, potentially transforming Nigeria's fuel landscape. However, this optimism has been thwarted following the circulation of a memo from the country's national oil company, the NNPCL, as filling stations around the country since Tuesday adjusted their pump prices from 617 naira per litre to between 900 naira per litre to 1,200 naira per litre. WADR's Usma Umar in Abuja has been monitoring the development and now reports.
I slept here. I was here since around 3 o'clock yesterday till now.
They sold it yesterday, 670. Today, in the morning, we came and they asked us to wait. Some of us slept here. For the past 2 days, we have been sleeping here.
Those were some residents of Jos, capital of Plateau State in the North Central region, lamenting fuel scarcity amid rising cost. Despite government's denials of approving such an increment, fuel prices have risen, leaving many Nigerians frustrated and confused. The situation is not different in Kano and Lagos, the commercial nerve center of the nation and host to Dangote multi-billion-dollar refinery.
We came here this morning to meet the increased price. I believe our leaders should have pity on the masses who are even struggling to get what to eat. Now, it's like we also have to move around. Here we are at the filling station with uncertainty of getting fuel because it's expensive and it's also difficult to get.
The person buy 1 liter, no go do anything. Something costs. Go enter motor for end. You know, as you stand, no see motor 300, no see motor 200. Marwa 400, 500, Kerope 300 to Agege. It's no good. Make to consider us because now you carry them go there when they stand there they enjoy now. But we now with the suffer now.
You see right now, I'm not ready to do anything. The whole problem lie on the fuel. If fuel goes down today, everything will be materialized. But without fuel, there is nothing we can do.
To address the issue, experts recommend that the government should consider implementing policies to reduce the country's dependence on imported fuel, such as increasing domestic refining capacity and promoting alternative energy sources. They also suggest that the government should enhance transparency in the pricing mechanism to prevent arbitrary price hikes. For Newslink on West Africa Democracy Radio, Usman Umar reporting from Abuja.
Ghana's parliament has finally approved a $250 million facility between the government and the International Development Association, RDA, of the World Bank for the Energy Sector Recovery Program. The facility was a subject of controversy during the last meeting of Parliament, with the minority in Parliament rejecting its approval after raising an issue over an amount of $94 million allocated for consultancy services. The loan agreement is part of the reasons the majority triggered an emergency recall of Parliament on Article 112, Section C. WADR Nadidititi reports.
The agreement was referred to the Finance Committee on Tuesday for a new report following the refusal of the minority to allow for a rescission motion from the Majority Leader Alexander Afenyo-Markin against the rejection of the loan agreement on the final day of sittings at the last meeting. NDC MP for Asawase, Mohamed Muntaka Mubarak, had raised questions about the allocation of an amount of $94 million for consultancy services, prompting the rejection of the agreement. In presenting the new report of the Finance Committee, a member and Deputy Majority Chief Whip Habib Idrisu explained the concerns of the minority regarding the consultancy services allocation have been addressed. According to the committee, the Finance Ministry explained that the over $90 million allocation was not just for consultancy but for other items like purchase of prepaid meters.
Mr. Speaker, the committee met and we deliberated on the issues based on the referral, and we have a consensus agreement based on the further deliberation.
Ranking member on the Finance Committee of Parliament, Isaac Adongo, in seconding the motion, indicated the satisfaction of the minority with a breakdown of the allocation earlier captured under consultancy.
The ministry explained to us that the original agreement that was brought to this House did not contain $90 million for consultancy, and that by the nature of the design of the project, there wasn't project management as a component of the project. As a result, some of those expenditures were captured as goods and services, which was lumped with the supply of prepaid meters.
Asawase MP Muntaka Mubarak also indicated he had no further issues with the facility. The House, consequently, by consensus approved the facility. For WADR, Nadidi Teti, Accra.
You are listening to Newslink on West Africa Democracy Radio, broadcasting from Dakar, Senegal. Here is a reminder of our top stories. Senegalese Parliament reconvenes for an extraordinary session following the rejection of a bill seeking the dissolution of two state institutions. ECOWAS extols the Gambia for its impressive national early warning system. Renewed concerns in Nigeria as citizens complain about new hikes in fuel prices amid Dangote refinery's promise. Still ahead in the news, Africa gets up to $51 billion in grants from China with promises of a beneficial relationship. We also have the press review, guest interview, and sports news. Please stay with us.
Fresh and breaking news all the time.
Hear it first as the news breaks, only on West Africa Democracy Radio. Newslink continues.
Thanks for being with us. As a reminder, we're streaming live on YouTube at WADR and on Facebook, WADR English Service. In health matters, the Democratic Republic of Congo is set to receive its first doses of vaccines against Mpox today, Thursday. The initial delivery at Kinshasa Airport will consist of nearly 100,000 doses, according to the Director General of the African Union Health Agency. The Africa CDC also commends the European Union's mobilization in response to its call for solidarity to curb the spread of the disease. Here is Imo Edit with the rest of the details.
The arrival of these first vaccine doses in the DRC this Thursday is a relief as the country remains the epicenter of Mpox. The disease has already caused over 600 deaths and 17,000 cases recorded so far. This is also a relief for the Africa CDC, which declared Mpox a public health emergency in Africa a few weeks ago. The African Union Centers for Disease Control and Prevention hopes these vaccine doses will help curb the spread of the disease in the country, especially as a new, more deadly and contagious strain of the virus has emerged. The Africa CDC expressed gratitude to the European Union for promptly responding to its call for solidarity to ensure access to the Mpox vaccine in affected African Union countries. Nigeria, which also has around 30 cases of Mpox, recently received 10,000 vaccine doses from the United States. Spain has promised 500,000 doses, while France and Germany have pledged 100,000 doses each. As the disease spreads across the continent and a case has been recorded in Europe, the World Health Organization declared its highest level of global alert in mid-August. The WHO will soon call for the mobilization of 121 million euros to provide an effective response against Mpox. This plan to combat the disease will extend from this September to January 2025.
Imo Edit with that report. The 9th China and Africa Forum continues today, Thursday, with one of the key commitments made by Beijing already announced. Ghana says to provide the African continent with a $50 billion package over 3 years, aiming to boost local economies and create jobs. Abdullahi Hassan has more in the following report.
The Chinese head of state affirmed that his country is ready to deepen its cooperation with the continent. To this end, Beijing intends to allocate $50 billion to the African continent for 3 years to strengthen the continent's infrastructure and boost trade between Africa and the Asian giant. The world's second largest economy also promises to create 1 million jobs in Africa. In the field of security, Beijing plans to train 6,000 soldiers and 1,000 police officers in Africa. On the health front, the Asian giant is announcing the deployment of 2,000 of its medical staff to Africa to launch 20 programs linked to health infrastructures and malaria treatment. China, a country that remains the main donor in Africa, has already carried out bilateral trade worth over $168 billion with African countries in the first half of 2024. Over the past 2 decades, Beijing has sent hundreds of thousands of engineering workers to Africa to build major projects. In return, China has benefited from Africa's natural resources such as copper, gold, and lithium. On the eve of the opening of the summit, the Chinese president had a tete-a-tete with several African leaders. The African heads of state attending the summit also told President Xi Jinping of their desire to reach agreements in various fields ranging from the economy and health to security and agriculture.
Abdullahi Hassan reporting there.
This is the newspaper review. Stay abreast and find out what the top stories are in your country.
This is the newspaper review.
The newspaper review.
Today's press review takes us to Accra, Ghana, where our correspondent Nadia Tete is standing by.
Greetings from Accra. We'll start off with the Daily Graphic newspaper front page. Declare national emergency on Galamsey. Professor Ade to President Wadr. Professor Ade is the former chairman of the National Development Planning Commission. Also here, 39 pick up presidential forms and basic schools reopen on Tuesday. That'll be it for the Daily Graphic newspaper. Now to the Daily Guide newspaper. Parliament okays $250 million IDA loan. Baumia promises its SME bank for traders, and 4 Ghanaians convicted for smuggling £4.5 million of cannabis to the UK. And the final story here, MPs backtrack on siren speed limit law. So the Chronicle newspaper now, front page, MPs insist on using sirens on our roads. Speaker directs committee to include their concerns in new LI. And also here on the front page, Baumia's plan to reduce cost of living, food security, transportation, housing and energy on the radar. The Anchor newspaper, front page, pollution of water bodies. Why was river wardens not deployed after recruitment? Also here, national development requires upgrade, reset, restore, and restructuring. That's according to Razak Opoku. And final one here, rethinking GES promotion exams, the time for a change. Now to the Crusading Guide newspaper. Baumia outlines bold strategy to reduce cost of living. Also here, Nyahota Maklo charges EC to produce credible electoral register. The Daily Searchlight newspaper, front page, all of Ghana's water bodies are dead. That's according to the Ghana Water Company Limited. Also here, Alan takes fight to Baumia. Come clean on your role on the economy. The Business Analyst, front page, banking industry remains profitable in first half of 2024. Profit increases by 25.5%. Also here, cocoa market to remain calm, prices to decrease, as according to the Bank of Ghana. And final story here, making inclusive data the norm. Ghana holds stakeholder consultation with implementing partners. The Daily Statesman newspaper, front page, Lands Minister calls for emergency meeting to crack down galamsey. And the final story here, PMMC advocates investment in gold jewelry as store of value. That'll be it for what the dailies are reporting today from Accra. It's back to you.
Thank you, Nadia Tete, for the press review.
Politics, analysis on major news, social matters, and all. This is A Guest.
Our guest this afternoon, Mamadou Cho, a political analyst in Senegal, joins us with his analysis of the current political divide between President Bassirou Diomaye Faye and the legislature over the rejection of his proposed bill seeking to abolish two-state institutions.
We are in a very political week because since the last time the members of the former ruling coalition, Benno Yakar, rejected the request coming from President Bassirou Diomaye Faye to suppress two institutions, the MPs belonging to the former ruling coalition decided to get the government of Prime Minister Ousmane Sonko get it down. And then since we are waiting up to September the 12th for even our parliament to disappear, thanks to the 2 years after a new National Assembly is elected. So before then, starting from today, we have 1 week to go, and we have to expect anything to happen as what we see yesterday, because yesterday was a very political day.
What do you think prompted the president's decree for this extraordinary session, especially just when the Benno Yakar majority in parliament rejected his proposal?
Because the president knew that this is the only maneuver he can do. If he didn't, what will happen is the MPs belonging to the former ruling coalition, Benno Yakar, they decided to summon Prime Minister and his government, Ousmane Sonko, to come to the National Assembly, and that could have happened by tomorrow, Friday, or even by Saturday. But before September the 12th, which is the deadline to see this National Assembly disappear. So that's why they are in a rush. President Diomaye Faye know that he has to rush. To cut the grasses under the foot of these MPs, because if he doesn't, maybe they will get a victory. That was another victory after what happened when they rejected this request coming from President Diomaye Faye to get rid of these two institutions.
Despite the parliament's rejection of President Diomaye Faye's proposal, the president, a day after, dismissed Aminata Njai, the president of the High Council of Territorial Communities, and Abdoulaye Diallo, who is the president of the Economic, Social and Environmental Council, the two institutions the president proposed to dissolve.
Now, what will happen after they dismiss these two chairpersons of these two institutions? What the other simple member will become? Because I mean, we can say that for President Jomaifa has the right to do that because these two people have been appointed by decree, and then he took the same process to dismiss them.
Could that mean that the president wants these two institutions to remain very inactive until he finally have the power to have these two institutions dissolved?
Yeah, that is what he's intending. When you look at the way they are proceeding, Usman Sonko and President they knew that even with the members of parliament, they don't want these guys to continue being parliamentary heading to the election.
With the Prime Minister's policy declaration being one of the agenda for the Parliament's section today, would it give the Parliament the chance to also examine other laws that are also on the agenda?
No, I mean, it's not possible. I mean, they opened the session this morning at 10, and then right after the Speaker will adjourn the session, and the conference of the President will meet to set up an agenda, and that can take a week before they come back again, which means will be beyond September the 12th, which is the deadline. So the maneuver is political. President Jomaifa did it for him to reach September the 12th, and then if done, it means it's a done deal for this National Assembly. It means they won't even have the time to get this job done.
Mamadou Cho is a Senegalese political analyst. For the latest in the sporting world, here is Sankle Janko.
Hello there, warm welcome and thank you for joining us. Gambia's Scorpions began the 2025 Africa Cup of Nations qualifiers with a 1-1 draw against Comoros on Wednesday. The match, played in Morocco, was tightly contested as both teams aimed to secure the maximum points. Comoros took the lead in the 37th minute thanks to a brilliant free kick by Captain Yusuf Mchagana. Gambia's talismanic man and captain of the day, Musa Baro, also scored a beauty of a free kick a minute into additional time of the first half to equalize for the Scorpions. Gambia could and should have killed the game in the second half, but were wasteful in front of goal, and 1-1 it ended. Sudan secured an important home win over Niger on the CAF Africa Cup of Nations Morocco 2025 qualifiers on Wednesday afternoon. A solitary second-half strike by Abu Bakar at the Juba Stadium was enough for the host to get the 3 vital points in the opening match of the group stage qualifiers that are currently underway. Tanzania were held to a goalless draw against Ethiopia in their opener in the Africa Cup of Nations AFCON qualifier campaign in Dar es Salaam on Wednesday. In Tripoli, Libya and Rwanda also shared the spoils, drawing 1-1 in their Group D opener. And that's it for sports. It's back to you.
We've come to the end of this edition of Newslink here on West Africa Democracy Radio, broadcasting from Dakar, Senegal. Thank you for listening, and many thanks to Mustafa Sek and Maudo Juf for the technical assistance. To interact with us via our social media platforms, X formerly Twitter, Instagram at WADR News, and on Facebook, WADR English Service. Coming up at the bottom of the hour is our environment program, Enviroscope, with Abdoulaye Hassan, to be followed at the top of the hour by the news in French with Demba Amaan. I am Augustine Kali. Good afternoon.
And many thanks to you for listening.